Howdy. You know, I actually had somebody write me privately and scold me for killing that little unborn chicken in the last story. You know, how to get a chick. Yeah, get a life. Anyways, the next story is called Poor Little Birdie. It was a beautiful spring morning. The birds were singing, the faint smell of flowers and freshly dug soil in the air. The faint clinks of the milkman's last delivery at the end of the alley of fresh milk and glass bottles. I was about 6 years old and was headed over to my friend Georgie's house to play. I stood outside Georgie's house, and as usual, to get his attention, I yelled, "Oh, for Georgie!" Hey, this is the way you got your friend's attention when you went to their house. I don't know if it was because we had no doorbells in that poor people's neighborhood, or we didn't want to encounter grown-ups, or what. In any case, that's how we did it. I did this a couple more times, and then the door opened a crack, and a very raspy female voice yelled out, "Georgie ain't here. Now shut up and go away." It reminded me of that movie, The Wizard of Oz, you know, when the guard is at the door and he opens up that little window. "Go away," and slams it shut. Anyways, I stood there a bit, looking at the ground, pouting, wondering why she had to yell at me. I just wanted Georgie. And as I'm about to leave Georgie's front yard, which consisted of a patch of dirt the size of half a ping-pong table and about 15 blades of grass, I heard a commotion towards the rear of his house. So I walked through the dark, narrow passage between the buildings, where the sun never shines, and the mummies of night crawlers lay strewn about, no doubt drowned and deposited there from long past rainstorms, to slowly cure to their present state. As I emerge into the morning sun filtering into the backyard, I see what is causing all the racket. There are blackbirds squawking and jumping up and down. As I get closer, they fly into the air, and then they start diving at me, just like in that scary movie, The Birds. As I'm covering my head and eyes, I can't help but picture myself lying in the yard motionless, with dark, empty holes where my eyes once were. I can see through the cracks between my fingers a baby bird lying on the ground in front of me. I'm not really sure it was the blackbird's baby, because it was mostly yellow, and most of the yellow was its beak. A lot of beak. Very little bird. I wonder, are they indeed the parents, or are they just bully birds beating up on the little one? Well, I get on my hands and knees to get a better look at the little bird. I'm looking it over and looking up at the blackbirds, which are now sitting up on the rain gutter, looking down at me and squawking. I do seem to see a resemblance in the big yellow beaks, and I notice there's a nest in the gutter, so I guess it must be their baby. Now, as every kid knows, you're never supposed to pick up a wild animal with your bare hands, or the parents will kill it, or send it to an orphanage. I look around to find something to pick it up with, thinking, boy, I sure wish I had a spoon. Just then, I spy a big pile of used popsicle sticks on the back steps. No doubt Georgie's recent crop from the alley and street gutters around the neighborhood. I wondered how come he asked me for some just yesterday if he had such a big pile already. I think that rat was hogging them all. Well, I grabbed a few sticks and went back to the baby bird who's trying to stand up, but I think the weight of his head and beak keep knocking him over. I try unsuccessfully to pick the bird up, like chopstick style, and he keeps flopping out from between the two sticks, so I look for something else to pick him up with. Over in the corner of the yard, I see some rhubarb growing with its big, broad leaves. Perfect. So I go over and tear a leaf off, bring it back and lay it next to the little birdie. And then I take one of the popsicle sticks and sort of scrape, drag, and flick the little bird onto the broad rhubarb leaf. Then I carefully slid my hands under the leaf while cupping it to form a bowl of sorts. And I carefully stood up and looked up at the bird's nest high above in the second-story rain gutter. I think I stood there for quite a while, just staring at it, locked in time, pondering the futility of finding a way to get the birdie up there. Well, as I'm staring up at the nest, I notice there's a downspout right next to it. I follow the downspout down the side of the weathered old gray clapboard house to the spot where it ends, right in front of me. I think for a bit and come up with a solution. I can't get the baby all the way up to the nest, but this should work. I went over to the bottom of the downspout and knelt down in front of the opening near the ground, and then I just sort of rolled the baby, the little bird from the leaf into the opening But the baby flopped right back out onto the ground. So I did it again, but this time I was prepared with a popsicle stick to block his exit from the gutter. I followed up with another stick to push the little guy up into the gutter a bit. There, he's in. Well, as I'm mentally patting myself on the back for my success, the baby bird starts to roll out, his big head rolling awkwardly like a football and dragging his featherless little body along behind it. I instinctively reach out to catch it, and as soon as I do, I realize, oh no, I touched it. Now what? Now his parents are going to kill him, and it's going to be all my fault. And I knelt there for a while with the little birdie cupped in my hands, and finally decided that because my hands were so dirty, and the ground is dirty, that the parents probably wouldn't even smell me, and the little birdie's life would likely be spared. So I tear out some weeds and grass from next to the house and stuff the baby bird, followed immediately by the grass, as far up that downspout as I could, and followed it with a rhubarb leaf plug. Now, the mother and father can just come down through the spout, get their baby, carry it back up to the nest. Problem solved. I walked back over to replace the popsicle sticks, and as I was setting the sticks down in the pile, I thought, boy, that Georgie sure has his nerve taking my sticks, when he had all these to himself already. And so I picked up as many of those sticky, dirty old sticks as I could into my little 6-year-old hands, and headed home feeling pretty gosh darn good that I had just saved that little birdie's life. I thought to myself, what a good boy you are. Well, this is my earliest recollection of having committed a sin. Well, actually 2 sins, stealing the popsicle sticks and doing it in spite. Luckily for me, I was too young at the time to know that they were sins. Therefore, I'm pretty sure that I'm cleared of any wrongdoing. Not to mention, I would think I'd get extra credit for, saving that little birdie. Boy, that would suck if those old popsicle sticks I had stolen ended up being just one too many. Just one too many sins for me to get into heaven. That wouldn't be good. Well, of course, now I'm old enough to know that what I did that day surely ended up killing that little birdie. But I did the best that I could, with the knowledge that I had at the time. And I think that is all that we can expect from ourselves. No more, no less. Good night.